Hey, it's me, Hrishikesh Kannan, popularly known as Hrishi K. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon now to get the latest videos and get taken into a world of entertainment, culture, sport, business, and current affairs.
We know that he was a bachelor, right? He died a bachelor. He never got married. He never had a kind of long-term steady relationship. Well, apart from apparently with this one lady named Pipsy Wadia. And it's not that they got married. She married somebody else, very clearly. And however, even after her marriage, whenever there would be seats booked in a theater or at a music concert, because Homi Bhabha attended a lot of them, there would always be one booked next to him for Pipsy Wadia. It was just part of the deal. If she showed up, good. If she didn't show up, she was busy, And so there was this one companion, you can say, that was there all through his life. As far as like romantic interests go, I think Parvana Irani might be like an amalgamation of a couple relationships that he had in his life.
Jim Sarbh, Ishwak, and Siddharth Roy Kapur joined me. It really, to me, is the trailer of the last 5 years. I'm just so excited by Rocket Boys. 4th of February, Sony Liv. Sid, how are you? All well?
I'm good, yeah. How are you doing?
I'm well. I have to tell you that the lovely ladies of Aranyak, your principal cast, which is Meghna as well as Ravina, had very vibrant things to say about you and how you're such a perfect gentleman. And you must take that as a compliment.
Yeah, thank you.
Jim Sarbh, who is the actor making a special appearance right in front of you?
This is Mimi. Mimi.
Hi, Mimi. No? Do you speak Parsi, Gujarati, French?
I mean, she's quite a Parsi cat.
She speaks claw.
He speaks claw. That's a good one. Hi, Ishwak. How are you? Yeah.
Good, man.
Okay. Sid, the genesis of the story idea, I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, here are two of the most iconic figures in contemporary Indian culture. But where did the idea stem from? Did MA bring it to you? Did you take it to MA? Let's talk about the collaborative process first.
Sure. So as you said, I mean, we've all heard of Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai, but it just doesn't come intuitively to think that you'd make a series on them. We've made them on film stars and sportsmen and musicians, but you don't think of doing something on scientists. So a writer called Abhay Pannus actually came to us with the idea, and he sort of pitched us on a show with these two legendary scientists. And what he told us, and which we frankly didn't know, was that their lives were so intertwined that they actually had these sort of concurrent journeys, and they might have been sort of they might have had different philosophies for the way that they wanted science to influence the country. But they were an integral part of each other's lives in many ways. And, that really got us going. And then, we were chatting with MA about what we could do together. And when we told them about this, Nikhil immediately jumped up and said, he loved the idea. He'd done a lot of reading on these characters too. And that's really where the journey began. And then Nikhil and Abhay Pannus, who's written and directed the show, sort of took the baton forward, did a lot of research. We even had the Sarabhai family on board. We were able to talk to them, be as authentic as possible to the way that events played out, but obviously dramatize what happened around the characters. And that's when we got this incredible cast on board too. And that's really where the journey began.
Lovely. And Parsi represent, I mean, this is my favorite community. All my closest friends are Parsis. And it hurts me. I mean, in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, obviously, there's never a problem. But you can go into pockets in the northernmost parts of India and people will not know what a Parsi is. So I'm just really happy that as part of popular culture, there is a series being made on a Parsi gentleman and a Parsi is playing that. How does that feel? How are people in the community reacting? Man, is your WhatsApp line flooded with "Go Jim Go"?
No, that's the brilliant part of the Parsi community is they just don't take themselves seriously. So it's really not "Go Jim Go." It's "Don't fuck it up, Ghel Chodio." And that's always been one of my favorite things. They just don't take themselves seriously. They really believe that the funniest and most eloquent one in the room, should have the opportunity to do that. You should be able to pull anyone's leg. We don't care about positions of power, like who the boss is supposed to be. Everyone is kind of teasing each other. I love that.
That sounds like Punjabis.
Yeah.
It sounds
That sounds a lot
ridiculously
like
like
a Punjabi.
Punjabis. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. And with the kind of mixed heritage like that Sid Roy Kapur has, he can nod in both directions. So, but it's not a Parsi stereotype. I mean, these people exist. He has a right brain as well as left brain thinker, Jim Sarbh, a man who is responsible for India's nuclear program, also loves his flowers and his botany and his surprise, his Western classical music. So that must have been interesting for you to do, man.
Not just the Western classical music, just arts in general. Like he could play the violin, he could play the piano. He was a brilliant artist in his own right. He supported all the modern Indian art movement as much as possible. The whole family did, but like he included. It's just the way he's described by lots of people, including J.R.D. Tata, Vikram Sarabhai, and their eulogies, is that he is a complete man. There's no other way to describe him. His interest was so far-reaching and so deep in all of the subjects that he got interested in that, it's just been it's like being a Renaissance man. It was astounding to learn more about him and realize just what an incredible figure he was.
True. Ishwak, there is lots of documented literature on Vikram Sarabhai, and that could make it easier for you because you have enough research material, but that's also difficult because Kartikeya and Mallika, the family is still so active, still part of popular culture. Did you have conversations with them, or was it just Abhay's research material and screenplay that you went by? How much of the family did you interact with?
No, all of it. I looked up, read a lot of that literature that you mentioned. One great a few biographies, but the one that I referred to, and Abhay also referred to the same thing. We used to exchange notes on what we were reading.
That's the one
by Amrita Shah.
Amrita Shah, yeah.
Yeah. Plus the references in books of the book that's on I Am Ahmedabad, or whether it's The Atomic State by Janvi Palke, or the Indian Bomb, which is by a foreign author. Great book. Atomic Energy. ISRO. There's excellent anecdotes about Sarabhai. And then, even the biography is anecdotal. So you get to know about the person, Vikram, not just Vikram Sarabhai, the great scientist. Ki unhone ye kiya tha. Unke dost, when, the people who were around him would talk about him. And that was something, that was insightful. It was something that I could take back. And then knowing the fact that he was, what his ideology was, what he believed in, the kind of people who inspired him, whether it was Gandhi, Tagore, or other great mentors that he had, to know and to imagine and to sort of want to try and find out what it was about them that inspired him and what did he take from them and used in his life, whether it was, in his personal life or the way he approached his work. So it was an amazing journey. It was exciting. In this process, the reason I do this is because you get to sort of get aware, learn so much about a different culture, about a different field. And so many things have stayed with me. I'm really grateful for this.
Lovely. Sid, when it comes to a period piece or a retro piece, I wouldn't call this a classic piece because Dr. Bhabha passed in 66. I think Vikram passed in 71. So, it's still a retro piece. Production design and art direction plays a very, very important part of that. How much did you get involved as far as that is concerned? And I just don't mean in terms of the money and the expenditure, but, you've got to get that right. Abhay's vision and you as a producer, your vision. Talk to me about that to recreate the period piece.
So what Nikhil and I were very clear about was that we needed to maximize, we had to get the bang for the buck and really be able to, if we were trying to recreate that period, to be able to do something authentic and be smart about the way that, the money was spent at the same time. Because unfortunately, we don't have unlimited resources the way that a Crown would, or the way that a Downton Abbey might, to be able to recreate an era. But you still want to be authentic. You still want to be true to the time. You want your costumes, you want your art, you want your sets, you want your locations to be able to bring alive that time, and in a very real way. So Abhay was really obsessed with that as well, and I think Abhay was able to work, very closely on that and ensure that the months that we put into prep really bore fruit in terms of the way that the series was finally shot. So yes, there was a lot of effort that went into the look and feel.
Jim, I've done a fair share of reading on Vikram Sarabhai, on Dr. Bhabha. In fact, there was an exhibition at the National Center of the Performing Arts on Dr. Bhabha and his brother, Jamshid Bhabha, which I had gone and attended about 3 years ago, which had life-size portraits and pictures, and it was lovely. But very little is written or expressed about his wife or his romantic liaisons. You can try and Google it even now. There's very little that comes up. On the other hand, as far as Sarabhai is concerned, there's reams of newsprint, because Mrs. Sarabhai was who she is, and, the daughter is who she is. So talk about the Parvana Irani aspect. I like the fact that, there's some gushing romance in between all the rocket and the nuclear talk and things like that. Was that totally a figment of imagination? How much of reality did you draw from, as far as those two characters, Sabha and yours, are concerned?
Well, I'll answer, but it is more a writer-director question, because I believe that from the research that they had done, look at this. This is what it was.
Let me distract. Does she still remember this? Me.
Oh, come here. So basically, we had read. We know that he was a bachelor, right? He died a bachelor. He never got married. He never had a kind of long-term steady relationship. Well, apart from, apparently, with this one lady named Pipsi Wadia. And it's not that they got married. She married somebody else, very clearly. And however, even after her marriage, whenever there would be seats booked in a theater or at a music concert, because Homi Bhabha attended a lot of them, there would always be one booked next to him for Pipsi Wadia. It was just part of the deal. If she showed up, good. If she didn't show up, she was busy, And so there was this one companion, you can say, that was there all through his life. As far as like romantic interests go, I think Parvana Irani might be like an amalgamation of a couple relationships that he had in his life that we've made singular, just so there's more of an emotional, there's just more of an emotional connect. That said, there was this constant companion. So, it's tricky. The Mrinalini Sarabhai has written a book where it's kind of like a memoir, and there's an anecdote in it where they were at a South American award ceremony for scientists, and Homi Bhabha has showed up late, potentially missed his award, and he showed up with one of Hollywood A-list actresses at the time.
Ooh.
So from what we know is that he was quite a
ladies' man, for the lack of any other word. A ladies' man.
I would say more a flamboyant character. Was happy to be the center of attention if the evening so went that way.
He liked the good things in life, not just a ladies' man. A flamboyant.
And you couldn't play with Sarabhai's character because you knew that there was just the woman, so you might as well give vent to that with Bhabha's character. Yeah.
No, but even with the way that we've portrayed it. I mean, there is a love aspect to it, but I think I don't want to say. I think you should watch the show. I think
Watch
you should
the
watch the
show.
show to
Yeah,
find
fair
out
enough.
how
Fair enough.
it plays out. Yeah.
One doesn't want any spoilers, but suffices to say that it is fictional. That's what I was trying to aim at, because, like I said, with Sarabhai, there is no element as far as fiction is concerned in the personal life. I said, um, when you're looking at a vast storyline like this, there are so many pockets that you can go into. It's like making a cricket film like 83, like, right? Kabir Khan chose to just say they will land in England and I'll show that portion. I'm not going to go into the backstory of Kapil Dev and Madan Lal and things like that. These gentlemen in real life, Sarabhai and Baba, died under very mysterious circumstances. I mean, people turned around and actually said that maybe the CIA had them assassinated, because one was responsible for a space movement, the other was responsible for the nuclear movement. How did you zero in on what aspect of their life that Abhay wanted to show Nikhil and yourself had a vision for?
You're right, Rishi, about the fact that you could pretty much make a show on each of them individually and really not be about them both. But I think the reason that we decided to have their lives run concurrently and be as intertwined as they are in the show is because that's how their lives were, in many ways. And what intrigued us about this particular show from the one line that we started with, that Abhay Karane brought us, was that you were talking about both these scientists and their relationship with each other, and obviously about their lives around that. But it was really about these two great men who were architects of modern India in many ways, right? But their philosophies about what they wanted for the country might have differed. And at that time, you would have arguments on principle. These were not personal arguments and these were not personal conflicts. These were arguments and these were conflicts about very, very important things. And people believed enough in them to be able to stake their lives and their friendships on those philosophies that they espoused. So I think that's what really, sort of interested us about, telling the story of these two men. And obviously their lives and their loves and the trials and the tribulations and the conflict, all of that adds the drama to it. But it was really about their sort of common journey.
Ishwak, the conflict is there. I mean, Sarabhai wanted to send rockets up into space, wanted to herald a space program, which is why ISRO came about. Baba, on the other hand, was very driven to harness nuclear power and nuclear energy, not just for weapons, but just for power, to generate power for the nation. However, there was a camaraderie or a friendship that developed. I mean, there are stories of how, and it's been written about, how when, Vikram wanted to start the Indian Institute of Management, Homi Bhabha chipped in, and there have been instances where the collaborative work happened. What is it about Baba that Sarabhai liked very, very much for the friendship aspect to develop through the conflict?
The interesting thing is that it's like, as you go along doing this, you see it presents itself to you, the relationship. And I wouldn't wouldn't have wanted to. It's like, you take a trail, walk on a trail, and as you go along scene by scene, first you read it and things happen. I saw at places, that I felt that I was talking to a friend, at places, a mentor, and I could see those people who've mentored me, and I could see those friends in Jim as Homi Bhabha, at places a brother, an elder, sometimes younger. It was a beautiful relationship that, and constantly in a flux, and a very, very close, and more than anything else, I think, a friend, someone who's just there for you unconditionally.
But what kind of energy you take that, Jim. See, the commonality between these two blokes was they both came from wealth. Sarabhai's dad was an industrialist. Baba's dad, again, eminent lawyer. They were well-heeled boys. They worked very hard to get where they did. But what is it that instinctively Baba likes about Sarabhai? Is it the innocence? Is it the boyish, impish charm? Is it the drive and the ambition? Talk to me about that.
It's first of all, it's all of those things. But I think essentially it's like if your and I believe with these two men, their minds worked a bit faster than everybody else in the room. It just
Wow,
is
interesting.
usually, I believe it is the case. They've both been universally acclaimed for their penetrating intellects. The fact that they just made connections between things that other people took longer to make those connections for. And whatever they turned their attention to, they wound up being able to solve those problems, usually by just taking themselves out of the equation entirely. I think to a certain extent, that's what makes somebody great, is when it comes time to solve a problem, you're not thinking about you or what it means if you can't or what it means if somebody else does. It's just about solving the problem. Their enormous amounts of intelligence and knowledge could just be laser focused on the problem at hand. And so I think with anybody like that, life can be a bit lonely until you find somebody else that thinks the same way.
Similar problem solver.
even if it means that they disagree with you on a fundamental level, you can see that they see the connections you've made, and they're making different connections, which are equally as intelligent, but just with a different philosophy perhaps attached to it. And so I think that the fun of the series was trying to think about the approach of somebody who is a couple steps ahead. What does that? How do they then speak? What do they say when? How fast do they have a retort? What happens when that person has the rug swept out from underneath them? Because the universality of the show is that they all go through the same things we all go through.
Yeah.
You know, success, failure, doubt, insecurity, all of those, the love, friendship, being hurt in friendship, feeling betrayed by friendship. They all go through the same things that everyone else goes through. What makes them, what elevates them into that position where we look at them as great is the way that they deal with those things, the way that they understand those things, the way they transform those things into their lives, then make actually even those things work for them in some way. And I think with Sarabhai, it was like, okay, we at least think at a similar speed. Now,
let's do this.
we might sometimes disagree, but I also know that you're probably one of the few people that really can understand me, and I can really understand you.
Yeah, there were, even at the and if you pinpoint at one particular aspect, there were men of a different kind of science. Thermodynamics had been something that was that people were moving on from, and now it was nuclear science, nuclear physics, and that's what these people took over. It's like, you belong to a certain fraternity, and there's a paradigm shift. Now, not many people are ready for that, but the ones who are, they have an amazing kind of a camaraderie, and you believe that you're part of something new, part of the future.
Lovely.
Plus, that sense of wanting to build modern India together. I mean, these were the boys, these were the young, energetic scientists who had the will, who had age on their side, who had all kinds of means, resources, and they had the inclination, the desire to use all of that, all the might, and put it to good use.
Sid, I'm very excited by the casting of Regina Cassandra. I feel we don't see enough of her north of the Vindhyas. Playing Mrinalini, she brings a different grace to it, and the fact that she's a Bharatanatyam dancer, you must be excited too. I mean, talk about that aspect, please.
Very much so. I mean, it was we're so lucky to have been able to cast her in the role. And in fact, when Malika came to choreograph her mother, effectively she was choreographing Regina, playing her mother, doing a dance. She saw a few scenes of Regina as well at that time, and she actually mentioned to her that I'm so glad that you're playing, which I think is the ultimate.
Oh wow!
I mean, it really doesn't get a better endorsement than that is hard to find. So we're really lucky to sort of have her do it, and she really comes across as luminous, fragile, vulnerable, strong. All the things that Mrinalini was. And it's really incredible that the way that she's portrayed.
Okay, I've run out of time. Just going to squeeze one last one in. This is a social service thing that I am doing. I'm doing a series called Climate Warrior, where I'm saying, why is Delhi so polluted? The air pollution is out of control. In Mumbai, you do a beach cleanup, the plastic comes back, and again 2 days later, there are mountains of plastic. Deonar dump, where we're burning landfills, is causing so much pollution. Are we segregating wet and dry waste? Are we conserving water? Are we composting? Are we recycling? Are we cycling or walking down to the local store as opposed to taking the car everywhere? What are the small things that, Jim, you do to try and save the planet? Just a social awareness message, please.
I do try to save water as much as I can. I like to walk around Bandra as much as I can as well. If I can avoid taking cars or rigs, I'm very happy to do that.
Ishwak.
Keep the switch off when it's not supposed to be on. It's always, even if I have to go back every time and switch off the lights. All these small things. And of course, aspire to do bigger things.
Sid, I believe most film units now just don't have plastic bottles, which is fabulous. You have glass bottles with, actors' names on them and things like that. Anyway, just what the Roy Kapurs do and what you do to save the planet.
To start with, I'd say not enough. But from what one does is on our sets, we try to be as sort of conscious as possible and ensure that, we're segregating waste, that we're not using plastic. In one's personal life, the basics, things like conserving electricity and water. But I'd say there's much more that we can all do. The AQI in Bombay yesterday was the worst it's been in a decade. So,
True.
We're all coping with it on a daily basis, and I'm sure that there's much more that we can do.
4th of February, Rocket Boys, streaming on Sony Liv. The excellent Jim Sarbh, Ishwak, along with a fantastic ensemble cast, is directed by Abhay Pannus, and of course produced by Roy Kapur Films, Siddharth Roy Kapur and MA. Cheers, guys. Have a safe and wonderful day. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye, Sid. Bye, Ishwak. Bye, Jim.